welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever discovered or been introduced to in my 47 years of doing therapy. Gratefully, these tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Royce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships. It's also a tool that helps me move effectively from any negative emotional experience and transform that into part of the infallible guidance system that we've each been gifted. You can also download the actual worksheet itself. It's a PDF file, absolutely free. Click on the link, download it, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. You can also download a host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process or given powerful testimonials about how the use of the worksheet process has improved their life. Or perhaps some of those shows contain discussions of the dynamics behind how such a simple tool can be so powerful and effective. And we encourage people to go to that website, download those things, read them, go to your app store, get the app and try it out. We encourage this soon and often because it frequently results in people having questions or answers or comments or testimonials. And if you have that, give us a call at 563-999-3581 and press 1. It'll put a question mark by your phone number and I'll announce you by your area code. Alternatively, you could send an email to Jeanie at JEANIE at whyagain.org, or you can send an email to me at TJH at mindshifters-academy.org. When we get those emails, we read them and we attempt to answer them in the next possible show. And there is the discussion about those questions is available then in the archives. And the archives is another powerful tool and resource that's available absolutely free. You can go to whyagain.org, whyagain.org, and click on the picture of the microphone. And that will take you to a page where you can get access to the past 10 years plus of Internet shows. The files are available absolutely free for review. And for the first 8 years, it was 5 days a week, 1 hour a day. And for the last 2 years plus, it's been 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. The intention with all of that effort, time, intelligence, money, and energy, is to be of service. And if there is any way we can be of service to you, that would help us fulfill our intention. And you can let us know how we might be of service to you by calling 563-999-3581 or sending us an email. Today is a Thursday, which means we're going to have a Mind Shifter support group tonight from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Time. And the information about how to join us, absolutely free if you're so inclined, is at mindshiftersacademy.org. I like to remind people that there are 2 separate pages, one for the login for Tuesday group and one for the login for Thursday group. We have had times when people have mistakenly tried to log in on the opposite day with the wrong login material, and they don't do very well with that. So please, if you're going to pass this information along, or if you're going to plan to join us yourself, use the information to log in on the appropriate day. Also on MindShiftersAcademy.org, there is a page that talks about books that we've discussed on the MindShifters radio podcast. Originally it was called a radio show or an internet show, and these days they've matured to the point where they're calling them a podcast. And there's a list of books we've talked about, everything from the Empath Survival Guide by Judith Orloff, Life Strategies for Sensitive People, the book In an Unspoken Voice by Peter Levine, How the Body Releases Trauma and Restores Goodness, Welcoming the Unwelcome by Pema Chodron, Healing Depression Without Medication by Jody Skillicorn, When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron, Necessary Endings by Dr. Henry Cloud. The list goes on. Anatomy of an Epidemic by Robert Whitaker, and Jesus, My Autobiography, 365 Blessings to Heal Myself and the World, Proof of Heaven by Eben Alexander, Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute, A Course in Miracles Made Easy, The Tao Made Easy, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. The list goes on. The Eagle and the Swan by Shen, Dying to Be Me, My Journey from Cancer to Near Death to True Healing by Anita Moorjani, and the book by James and Steph Purpura, Perception, Seeing is Not Believing. So there are books by Matt Kahn on that list, and Anthony DeMello. So we have talked about a lot of things over the past 10 plus years, and all of it is open for discussion. I thought today one of the things I would do that we haven't done in a while is go to the new whyagain.org website and click on the Start Here link and scroll down and discuss some of the many different worksheets that are there. Now, we talk a lot on the show about the core tool in this work, which is called the Reality Management Worksheet. And if you go to that page and scroll down, it's, as I said, there are lists of shows that have been curated out from the archives specifically because they've been very well received, or some people have said, wow, this is a highlight show, I need to have access to it to listen to it again and again. There's a link to the Forgiveness app, and there's a section that says learn what tools to use when, and then other worksheets. So there's the Beatitudes poster, the Codependency worksheet. And the Codependency worksheet is a worksheet that has you list on the left-hand side. You can either download it or you can make your own on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper turned landscape. And on the left-hand side, the upper left corner, you write, people who have offended me, and you draw a line, and then you list everybody that's ever offended you. And the next column over, you make another column for what they did to offend you, the nature of their offense. They bullied you, they lied, they stole from you, they cheated on you, etc. The next column you're heading is, what are my punishment thoughts? What is it that I think I would like to do or that should happen to these people because they offended me in one way or another? And then the next column is titled, My Advice to Them. And here's my advice. You know, this person lied. My advice to them is that they always tell the truth. This person stole my property, and my advice is, you know, they should never They should only use their own property. They should respect other people's property, etc. And so there's a column on the far right that's doesn't have a heading yet. And what you're instructed to do in this worksheet is make a list of the people who've offended you, and then come back and start listing what they did to offend you, and then list what your punishment thought is for them, and then list what your advice is for them. So that, let's say you've got 8 or 10 people on this list, and then you write their offense, what they did to you, what your punishment thought is for them, and what your advice is to them. And you do that for all 8 to 10 people, and then you come back, and the last column, you title it, How I'm Going to Apply My Advice to Them in My Life. And in that last column, if you're really serious about healing your life and having a better life, you will write how you're going to try to apply every piece of advice you give somebody else in your life. Because the observation in this work is that it's all an inside job, and no one has ever offended me or hurt me, my true nature, in any way. Nothing of value can be taken from me, and nothing of value can be added unto me. And so, when I create a perception that says they did this horrible thing and that's causing my upset, when my mind comes up with an advice for them, that is going to be the perfect advice for me in my life. It might also be good for them, and it will be perfect for me. So if I really want to improve the quality of my life, there's another powerful tool that Dr. Michael and Jeanie Rice make available. It's called the Codependence to Interdependence Worksheet. There's also a page with a listing of the commitments. The commitment is a powerful tool to use in relationship. It's a tool that people can read to each other, or they can unilaterally read it to their partner. It basically says, I promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth and be true to you. I commit to always be sweetness in your life, to nurture you daily and treat you lovingly, gently, and with respect in my thoughts, words, and actions, whether I'm in your presence or not. In every interaction, I commit to affection for you, to look for and acknowledge the highest and best in you, and to surrender to love, our true nature. My connection to my source, my relationship with you, and our serenity will always be more important than any issue. As such, I open my heart to embrace you in my love, and I open my heart to be embraced in your love. Furthermore, if anything unlike love comes up, I will hold this in my heart and listen as I learn to speak, experience, and be responsible for my own realities. I am here for you and with you. I promise to keep communication open and keep love conscious, active, and present as we heal, celebrate life, and grow together. So there are some critical things to be pointed out when I give that to people. The first thing is, the hardest part is right up front. I promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth and be true to you. In our culture, what we're taught about relationship, what we're taught about privacy, what we're taught about individuality really smacks of have your privacy, keep your secrets, don't tell people things if you think they're going to be offended, etc. And all of that is based on the false belief that I am responsible for other people's realities. All of that is based on not understanding the difference between, as Michael Rice talks about it, a reality, which is a picture that my mind creates, and an actuality, which is what's actually happening in the world. So if we have 5 people in a room and a series of events take place, there was one actuality in that room. 5 people were there and these events occurred. However, there will be, without any doubt, 5 separate realities created by the 5 individuals who were in that room, and none of them will be exactly alike. There might be quite a bit of overlap, especially if people are relatively healthy, and yet each one of us is only, always, and forever creating our own experience of life through the process of perception, which is highly active, proactive on our parts. It is not a passive thing. We don't just open our eyes and see everything that's there. The next thing is the idea that my serenity, my connection to my source, and our serenity will be more important than any issue. This is not what we're taught. Most of us are taught to fight for being right and to win arguments and convince other people. And this is, the root of this in this commitment tool leads me to helping people understand it is so critical if I'm going to be in a relationship with another human being who's busy creating his or her own realities as separate from mine, even if we're in the same room together and I think we're noticing the same things and I think we're interpreting them the same way. We're not. We most of the time are not. And the vast majority of times that we have disagreements, it's because of the differences between the reality I'm creating in my mind and the reality the other person is creating in his or her mind. And the last paragraph talks about how I will hold this in my heart and listen as I learn to speak, experience, and be response-able for my own abilities or my own realities. Meaning, here once again is the reinforcement that I'm the one creating everything I experience. I'm creating my own emotions. I'm even creating my perception of the world around me. And whenever I get into a pattern where I decide I want to blame or accuse someone else for what I'm experiencing, there's my next piece of work. It's not going to go very well. So, the next tool on the list is the love exchange. And I recommend that people do that soon and often. Many people don't even understand what it is, but the concept is I go inside myself, I get in touch with the most loving energy, memories, thoughts, vibrating energies of love and safety and strength and compassion that I have within me, and then I visualize sending that out my eyes, either to myself in the mirror or to my partner. And in that exchange, my partner, if I have a live partner, will try to do various things to tune into, to feel if there is something they can sense physically, energetically, emotionally, as I'm sending that loving energy. And then there is the responsibility communication rules, which is from the lecture Communication. Did you hear what I think I said? And it's quite a useful tool to help me map out what I'm doing with my thought and how I'm creating with my thought a level of perception. And the primary use of that tool for me is for myself. Most of the time when I do that tool, I don't end up sending it to the other person. I use it as a reminder of the different ways that I'm creating my own upset. And in those rare circumstances where I'm actually engaged in a relationship with somebody that I trust and respect, and I might ask them for their input, I can then go ahead and share this with them, because the essence of it is my goal is to heal. And I pick up a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet or the communication, the responsibility communication tool, when I realize I'm not feeling the love, I'm not feeling connected to my true nature. And then there's the Mind Goal Management Worksheet, the Mind Shifters tool and rules for that, a list of the physiological effects of emotional suppression. There's the 5 smooth stones and 5 things human will can do. which, the spiritual faculty of reason or choice is mirrored by the world's fake copy of resonance. The spiritual faculty of will is mirrored by the world's fake copy of willpower. The spiritual faculty of intuition, or the inner tutor, is mirrored by the world's fake copy of psychic. The spiritual faculty of imagination is mirrored by the world's cheap copy of fantasy. And the spiritual faculty of true perception, the enlightened true perception, or being able to perceive actuality, is mirrored by the world's cheap copy of perception, what we normally refer to as perception, which is almost always related, as it's used in the Western world, to what my senses are showing me, or what I can be aware of with my five senses. So there's a Mind Shifters List tool. There's a Mind Shifters List for women healing women. There's a personal code evaluation feedback sheet. There's a Power Person worksheet. And the Power Person worksheet's a relatively new tool. I list who I think my Power Person is, and I write, what did I perceive to be my Power Person's needs? And then I write, what did I do to try and meet my Power Person's needs? And then I write, what did I perceive I had to give up in order to meet my Power Person's needs? And then I write what my definition of how to love, what it became. What's my definition of what it means to love based on my Power Person dynamic? And then I write how this is played out in my relationships. So this tool helps me map out a dynamic that I downloaded when I was younger, usually, or in a situation where somebody had more power over my life than I did, and that person who had the power over my life did not act from the space of love, and I came to believe if I didn't get it right, I wasn't going to survive. So I came to label this as a survival situation, and my download at that time, the energetic download of all these energies, sights, sounds, physical sensations, thoughts, etc., becomes my Power Person dynamic, which when it's activated when I'm older, gives me just three basic response patterns. When my stress is low, I can be the loving, gentle, funny, extroverted, or introverted, whatever kind of person I was when things were getting along, when I was getting along just fine with my Power Person and my Power Person was happy. When my stress level as an adult gets to be the moderate level, medium, then it's just like flipping a switch, and my response pattern becomes what I used to do as a child, or whenever I was younger, to try and resist and survive when my Power Person began doing the things that I hated the most. And then when my stress level as an adult goes to a high level, which sometimes can happen in less than a breath, then I immediately, like a flip of a switch, no choice involved, I flip into doing the very kinds of behaviors that my Power Person did that I hated the most, and my mind is going to serve up for me every possible rationalization for why that's important for me to do. Completely ignoring that every time my Power Person did that when I was younger, I hated it, and I used to swear I would never do that to anybody, and I used to rant up and down that no one should ever be treated like that. But in the trick of the mind, with the Power Person dynamic activated, I instantly begin to do the very kinds of things that my Power Person did to me that I hated the most, and my mind convinces me that it's not just okay, but it's really the only reasonable thing to do at this time. So, powerful set of tools and worksheets. There's the Purpose worksheet, From Purpose, Personal Power, and Commitment, where I map out my secondary purpose. And I do that by listing 10 things I'm naturally good at, 10 things I absolutely love to do, completely independent of whether or not I can make money at them or the culture around me or my family thinks it's valuable. And then I write a narrative summary, a brief narrative summary of how I think the world's going to look through my eyes when the world is perfect. And then, after I have those two lists and that narrative description, then I make a statement that says, I now choose to use 1, 2, or 3 things from the first list, as I do 1, 2, or 3 things from the second list, as a way of helping the world become this, whatever my narrative description is. And when I use that on a regular basis, especially if I'm about to endeavor or engage or commit any significant amount of my time, intelligence, money, or energy, my life starts to get better by leaps and bounds. I will be on purpose. I will be more focused. I will have more satisfaction in my life. I will feel as though my life has commitment and purpose to it, and I will effectively achieve more things because my energy is focused rather than scattered. There's the symptoms of healing list, and how to tell if you're experiencing something physically, mentally, or emotionally that's uncomfortable. How can you tell if it's a sign of healing, what somebody in the homeopathic realm might call a healing crisis, because sometimes when they give homeopathic remedies to people, the symptoms they came to the doctor for get worse before they get better, so they call it a healing crisis. And the energy that was going into the system doesn't belong there, was uncomfortable on the way in, and it's going to be uncomfortable on the way out. And the healing crisis can look like physically anything that I experience as a physical symptom, any physical symptom I've ever had, and low energy, because it takes a lot of energy to process out that negative energy. Mentally, it's any negative thought I've ever had and confusion. So I need to open myself up to question everything I thought I knew, so old information can leave and new information can mix in. And emotionally, the symptoms look like any negative emotion I've ever had and depression. Now the question is, how do I know when I'm miserable if it's a healing process I'm experiencing or just somehow or another I'm engaging in more negative energy? And the 4 criteria are, if I've been doing more of the right things in my life, have I been using some kind of mental emotional processing, have I been eating good food, getting sleep, taking care of myself, getting decent exercise, etc. The second criteria is, did I have a new level of vitality just before I became symptomatic? And that relates to the idea that when I have a low vitality, my higher awareness knows, well, Tim doesn't have the energy to process out a bunch of his deeper toxins and traumas, whether they're emotional traumas or toxins or buildup of negative energies in the body from garbage eating, etc. So when my vitality increases, my higher awareness goes, oh, good, Tim's got more energy now. Now we can get rid of some of those deeper, more intense mental and emotional and physical traumas. Third criterion is, what's happening with my elimination? And if my elimination has increased, if I'm sweating more, if my bowels are moving more, if I'm urinating more, perhaps I'm getting rashes and toxins are leaving through the skin, that's an indication that I'm moving energies out. And then the last one is one that's often missed when people discuss this. Am I craving the drug of choice or the behavior or the food or the interaction with the person that I use as a drug of choice to numb me out to my discomfort or distract me from my discomfort? And so those are the ways that I can tell if the negative experiences I'm having are part of a healing crisis or just more of the same negative energy in. And then the next item on the list is the 3 early memories of conflict, and that's one of the more powerful and useful tools in this list. If I were to say, if somebody were to ask me, what are the top 3 or top 5, this would be in the top 3, the 3 early memories of conflict. And that's because in combination with the reality management worksheet and the Mind Shifter tool, the 3 early memories of conflict has routinely been for me a wellspring of good information, and leading to better worksheets and leading to better mind shifters and leading to better understanding of how I've engaged in some unhealthy patterns and labeled it as necessary or somebody else's fault. And the concept with the 3 early memories of conflict is right in line with people like Diederik Wolsak and Bruce Lipton, who say, essentially in the first 7 or 8 years of life, we download our traumas, our emotions, our patterns, our beliefs about ourselves and the world, and then the rest of our lives, whenever those energies get triggered into activity, they drive our behavior. And so the 3 early memories will have me list 3 early memories. They don't have to be the earliest upsets in my life, but 3 early memories of conflict, and I write number 1, number 2, number 3, and then I go back and I fill in, okay, so when I was 5 years old, my first episode was when I was 5 years old, and somebody embarrassed me at a birthday party. So I go back and I interview my 5-year-old self, and I ask, okay, Tim, little 5-year-old Tim, what would you say life is right now? How would you define yourself? I am what? What are you feeling right now? What emotion do you have? How would you say people are right now? What would you say about what relationships are right now? What would you say you must do right now? Or what is it you say you need right now or that you want right now? How do you want to punish somebody else, or how do you want to punish yourself right now? And I fill in those blanks, and then I do it for each of the 3 memories of conflict. And then I go back and review. And when I first did it, it was much to my surprise, and now it's just as common as breathing that I see, oh my gosh, that's exactly the same kind of response I have today when somebody presents a conflictual situation or disagrees with me or wants to criticize me or attacks me or is trying to attack somebody else in my presence. And instead of acting from an adult, high intelligence, well-educated, mature coping mechanism type response, I'm basically just replaying the patterns that I downloaded in the first few to 10 or 15 years of my life. And when I first encountered that tool and used it, it was mind-boggling. It was shocking. And now I fully expect to just get more revelations every time I go back through the tool. Slight tweaks to the response patterns that have become basically rationalizations of, how I respond in the world, rather than being able to maintain my perspective and my professional training and my coping mechanisms when the earlier memories of trauma get triggered into activity, I lose the capacity to access my higher coping mechanisms. And the more I can do reality management worksheets around that, and the more I can explore the dynamics that underlie that with reality management worksheets, the more I can release and dismantle those energies so that they no longer drive my behavior. So that's my extended intro for today, running through a list of the tools at whyagain.org. And we have plenty of time for comments, questions, answers, soliloquies, 20 minutes or so. 563-999-3581. How can we support you? What's your question or your comment? Or if you've been to that website and used those tools, what's your favorite tool? Or what's a question you have about any of those tools and how to make them more effective or relevant? So, how can we support you today? We have 20 minutes left. What's on your mind? 563-999-3581. Call that number and press 1. I got the news yesterday that 3 more people have agreed to be interviewed. So if you've read a good book, or if you've got a favorite podcaster, or if you've followed somebody on a blog that is very informative and is at all related to spiritual growth or personal growth, please let me know. Send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or give us a call, 563-999-3581. I was graced yesterday with the acceptance by Robert Whitaker, who has written the book Mad in America and the book Anatomy of an Epidemic. He's agreed to be interviewed. I was also graced with a response from Jim Gottstein, who's the attorney who wrote the book The Zyprexa Papers. He's agreed to be interviewed. And I've been graced by responses from 2 other women who have been referred to me who have agreed to be interviewed, and I'm looking forward to, both of them have been through their own mental health crises and become either master's or doctorate level individuals working in large organizations and being advocates for mental health and survivors of mental health crises. So, if you know of somebody like that you think would be a great interview, either for Mindshifters Radio or for the Journey's Dream podcast that's titled On Your Mind, please let me know. I will follow up and let you know how it goes. I'm in a position where I never expected someone as well known as Robert Whitaker would agree to be interviewed for our little podcast, but he has, and so that's something to look forward to. And I will, as seems fitting, make some of those interviews available here on Mindshifters Radio after they've been published on the On Your Mind podcast, and especially those that I can fit within the hour, so I can convert the files and get them uploaded. So, how can we support you? How would you like to spend the rest of today's podcast, 18 minutes or so? Area code 808, you're in the air. Who do we have?
This is Roma Carlisle. Tim, how are you?
Oh, Roma, I'm well. How are you? A long time no hear from you.
Yeah. I was awakened this morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, by these callers, This one said, your bank account has been discovered to be illegal. Call, it was crazy. So I hung up on him, and of course it was a recorded voice. And then an hour later, the same message was coming from a different number. So I've been blocking each time a call like that comes in. But there's so many calls nowadays. Oh my gosh! I don't know. Do you ever get a lot of crank calls like that?
I get my share.
Yeah. It seems to me that we have more now than we used to have before. But I had a very, very intense, uncomfortable dream last night. I woke up and realized that it was perfect fodder for a worksheet. And when I got down to the part of the sheet where perfect love, at the very end of the sheet, Dr. Michael Rice, a few days ago, a week or so ago, just offhandedly defined perfect love as Rachma and Kuba. And it was interesting because when I was thinking about Rachma and Kuba, as I was about to fill in the little square after the word perfect truth, perfect love, I couldn't remember the intention. Rachma and Kuba being perceptions and intentions, and it took me the longest time to remember intentions. And then I finally did, but I found myself wondering. I know that one of these things, either perception or intention, is at the base of the brain, right at the top of the spine, and the other one is in the frontal lobes of the brain.
So
do you know which is which?
Perception is Kuba, and that's in the back of the brain. There's a filter in the front of the brain and a filter in the back of the brain. Each of them can be set either to hostility or fear, or in the front of the brain it can be Rachma, and in the back of the brain it can be Kuba. And so intentions are in the front of the brain, and perceptions are in the back of the brain. And he says intentions are the raw materials of goals. And so when I have Rachma set, it allows only intentions keyed to love to be used as the building blocks of my goals. And since I don't do any behavior, Rachma is intentions.
And then Kuba is perception.
Kuba is perception.
Good. Yeah. Well, that's good. So, thank you. I needed that little... I have been doing this work for 30 years. That was one thing that I really had not actually nailed down was which one was where.
You can nail it down permanently by going to whyagain.org, click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, and then scroll down about, near the top of the ongoing list, maybe halfway through the list of these worksheets, right below the physiological effects of emotional suppression, you can click on the link that says Getting the Stress Schematics of the Mind. And there is a schematic that's all drawn out where it shows intentions and Rachma and perceptions and Kuba. And it talks about fear, hostility, or Kuba, and fear, hostility, or Rachma. And some explanation on that page, so you can print that out and you won't get confused again.
That's great. Thank you very much. I'm not really very computer oriented. In fact, I'm very overwhelmed by too much information. So I appreciate. So where is it exactly I go?
I'll tell you what. If you
I go to the website and I go to the upper left hand and start here.
Do you have an email?
Yeah.
Do you have an email?
Yes.
Does Jeannie Rice know your email?
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
If you send her your email, she could simply email you this PDF, and then you don't have to go searching through. But it is in the list of worksheets on whyagain.org.
Oh, it's in list. Okay.
It's in the list of worksheets.
Well, it wouldn't hurt me to actually really genuinely acquaint myself with the website. I've been so overwhelmed by it that I haven't ever done it. What was it? Where is it in? You said it's in worksheets.
If you go to the first page and click on the link that says Start Here.
Yeah.
Once your computer opens that up.
I'm very familiar with that step.
Well, then you just scroll down. There's no clicking on anything. You just scroll down past the Heartland Forgiveness app, past the Bill Costantino video, past the apology tool and the responsibility communication rules, and right below the one that says physiological effects of emotional suppression, there the next link says getting the stress you need, or getting the stress, schematics of the mind, 3 filters.
I wrote that down. That's good. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That'll be good for me to learn how to do. I appreciate it.
Well, we lost Roma. I would say something for Roma's benefit, but you won't be able to hear it. So hopefully she'll call back in. And we can work with anybody else who's got a question or a comment. We just had somebody show up in the chat room, and so feel free to type in a question. Having a few technical difficulties here. We're back, I hope. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Roma has called back in. Roma, are you there?
Oh, yes. I got disconnected too, so
you were in the middle of saying something and you just dropped off.
Oh, I see.
So I heard thank you for the information about where to get the schematics of the mind, and then you were in the middle of saying something else and we couldn't hear you.
Oh, well, I felt complete, so I wasn't terribly dismayed that the phone cut off, but I did want to hear the rest of the program. I looked at the clock to see, well, what time is it anyway? So I called back in, and I was lucky.
All right.
My phone is now working after several months of not being able to access the show without going through very complicated. Anyway,
all right, so I will mute you so you can listen, and I thank you for the call.
Maybe there's another caller.
I don't. I have 9 minutes left, and only somebody in the chat room, and 4 or 5 or 6 callers. Some of them keep dropping, so I don't know if we're having technical difficulties. So is there another question or comment you have? I thought I heard you say you were complete.
Yeah, well, but I am fascinated by the fact that you are having these interviews with all these various prominent people who are making beautiful contributions to our awareness in the world. I think that's a wonderful project, and somehow I've never tuned in to hear any of these interviews in your hour of...
Roma, you're breaking up, Let me
see.
just say that. Let me just say that you can access those at journeysdream.org/podcast.
Okay.
All
Good.
one word. journeysdream.org/podcast.
Right. I wrote that down. Journey's Dream. I had written down a little earlier when you mentioned it. So good. I will check that out because it's. I agree with you though. Probably I can't imagine anyone being able to get any deeper to the source of truth for human consciousness than we have found with the Why Is This Happening to Me Again work.
Are you there?
Can you hear me?
You were fading in and out again. Are you there?
It's interesting. Yeah, no, I just heard the sound muted and then unmuted, so.
Yeah, I tried that to see if it would clear up the signal because I was losing the content of what you were saying. Something about going deeper into consciousness, and I couldn't. Yeah. I was losing every
I'll
second
try it
or
again.
third word.
I really appreciate everyone on this planet who's doing work to be able to lift planetary consciousness, and I feel that we've been very, very fortunate in discovering the Why Is This Happening to Me Again work, because my experience is that gets right to the heart of the matter and cleans that mess up in human consciousness faster than anything else, anybody else's techniques, even though there are millions of good techniques out there. Could you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, and I just added anything that you've yet discovered. So thank you for that. I happen to agree, and that's why I'm investing all this time and energy into this. So.
Yeah, I know, and I appreciate that very much, Tim. It's so nice that you're doing that, handling some of the calls that are coming in. So appreciate that very much. Thank you, Tim.
Well, you're very welcome and deserving. I'm going to go ahead and mute you because it's kind of breaking up as you're speaking, but I thank you for the call. I appreciate hearing from you. Glad you're doing well, and I hope you get access to that schematic, and if you're so inclined, to the over 60 interviews that are available at journeysdream.org/podcast. So we have 5 minutes left for a question or a comment. 563-999-3581. And here's someone in the chat room. And we have plenty of time in our next hour. Michael and Jeannie will be here, so maybe you want to queue up a question or a comment for them. And I'll just remind us that we do have a support group that's happening tonight from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central. It's available absolutely for free through Zoom. You can find out all the login information at mindshiftersacademy.org. And there's a separate login page for each, the Tuesday and Thursday group. So let us know how we can support you. What's your question or comment? Or join us for the group tonight. Or pass that information along to somebody you think might be interested. In the groups, we usually listen to 1 hour of some teacher, and or we end up doing all processing through the entire hour and a half or 2.5 hours. A week ago Tuesday, that's what happened. We had 2 people actually do worksheets and 1 person just do a lot of intense processing. So it's a wonderful way to tap into a support community and get more familiar with the power of these tools and the ways to use them to improve the quality of your life and relationships. So by all means, if you're available, join us and or pass that information along to somebody that you think might benefit from it. And we're getting ready for our second hour today. Apparently Michael and Jeannie are back from their travels, and ready to entertain your comments or your questions. So feel free to call. And I will be back again tomorrow. It looks as though on Monday there will be a pre-recorded show, a best of kind of thing, or maybe one that's never been shown before, because I will be occupied with family duties, and then I'll be here all the rest of the week as far as I know. So get your comments and questions in while we're here live. Jeannie's here and ready to take over. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. I appreciate it. And I put a link. I heard you talking about the physiological effects of emotional suppression. Was that the one, or were you the schematics of the mind?
I did them both.
Oh, okay.
I basically went through the entire list of worksheets.
Okay. All righty. Well,
it was another monologue day, and so I thought, and I had decided to do this a few days ago, but then we had a caller, so I just scrolled down that page and listed almost every worksheet and discussed them and how they could be used. So
awesome. Okay. Well, I've got links to that as well on the notes for today, and I'm a little behind getting the notes up. I have been taking them, but it's just been a little bit crazy.
Well, bless your heart. I hope it goes well. I hope you have a wonderful show. I'll just remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Take it away, Jeannie.
Thank you. All righty.